Hey y'all, T-Ham141 here, and I just watched an amazing video from Homesteading Family. I'll leave the link in the description. They were talking about exposing off-grid lies and should you go off-grid. This is a very diverse subject in itself. We are off-grid and we are homesteading. While I don't totally agree with everything that they concluded, there's a lot of sense made, and you can learn a lot from watching their video. I've got a cat that is just going bonkers. I apologize if you can hear him. They made a lot of sense in a lot of things, such as there are multiple grids. I've talked about this before. There is the power grid, there is the water grid, there is a food grid, there is an education grid. I'd never thought of that before. And there is a financial grid. A grid can be defined simply as a source or means of production, whereas the electric grid is a public means of producing electric. The supply grid and store grid is a public means of providing food. You pay, you get the resource. And that goes with water, education, fuel. That's a big one. I am off the electric grid, the public utilities for electric. I'm off the water grid. I produce my own water, whether it be from my well or my rain catchment system. If my well fails, my rain catchment system is a backup. And it also supports my well in that I can use the rain catchment system unfiltered for my animals and my garden if need be. I supplement my food grid. What does that mean? I garden. This year, not too successfully. I hunt. I preserve my own food. I've learned how to do this stuff. So yes, I am off grid. There are two electric lines running into my house. One is from my generator, one is from my solar panels. There is one water source to my house, and that is the internal water system that I have. I'll link below to that video. That can be produced either from the well, the groundwater, or the rainwater. To tell you the God's honest truth, I prefer the rainwater. I have hard water here. I prefer rainwater. I can't use it all year long. It's there if I need it. Remember, we're talking about self-sufficiency here. Okay? And no one is ever completely self-sufficient in my mind. You always need someone else, what they can do, what they can produce. Self-sufficiency is a goal, but not a destination. I try to be self-sufficient. I try to make my own power, try to make as much of my own food as I can, try to make as much of the resources as I possibly can. Fuel. I say I lose my access to gasoline. My generators are out. I would have to deal with my solar, what I make on solar. In the winter, right now I have my little generator going just to bring the batteries up. I have a 2,000 watt inverter charger. When I am plugged into the generator, it charges my batteries. When I'm not plugged into the generator, it takes the charge from the batteries and puts it to the rest of the house in AC. It inverts DC to AC. If that inverter breaks, then there is no power going to the house. That is not good because I like my creature comforts. I like my internet. I like my laptops. I like my YouTube. But if that inverter breaks, I have a smaller secondary inverter. Now, that would be just to charge cell phone and stuff like that because it's only a 400 watt inverter. So it would charge laptops and stuff like that, but it's not going to run the blender, say. I heat with wood. I can produce the wood myself on my 20-acre homestead. If I don't have access to fuel, my chainsaw is not going to work. I have an axe. I need to upgrade from the axe and get a buck saw, a felling saw, so that if I lose my access to fuel for my chainsaw, God, I hope that doesn't happen, I have the easiest possible means to fell a tree for my firewood, for my heat, which I need. For water, I have a hand pump system. I can draw water from my hand pump. Again, my water system link will be below, and I can take that and put it right on my well or right on my rain barrels as I see fit. It will work just as well on all of it. The food system, if I lose access to the food system, I have food preserved and know how to preserve food I gather and get. Most of my food is shelf stable, and if I lose access to propane for my refrigerator, which I want more stores of propane, Trevor's going to like that statement because he's been telling me you need to get a huge propane tank and convert your generators to propane. He's right. Propane doesn't go bad, gas does. But if I need refrigeration, I can drop a basket down my well where it will stay approximately 40 degrees. It's all the stuff you got to be thinking at. How can this go wrong? Light. I have shown, and I'll put the link in the bottom. Actually, the link to the off-grid playlist is in the description. Check that out. That's where you will find all of this stuff. My lights are on their own solar system. If something happens, batteries go bad, solar panels stop working efficiently, whatever, I do have oil lamps. I have some high efficiency oil lamps. Well, what happens if I don't have means to purchase or acquire oil lamps? Well, I got to eat. If I stock up on fish, I'm going to have fish guts. You can boil fish guts. I'm going to do a video on this at some point. You can boil fish guts down, and in doing so, you will make an oil that is burnable in most wick oil lamps. Fish guts. Who would have thought? You got to boil them down a couple times. You just put them in a pot and boil them down until they liquefy, strain it out, boil it again, strain it out. Can you homestead on grid with electricity? Absolutely. You can homestead in an apartment. The definition of homesteading is a lifestyle of self-sufficiency characterized by agriculture, food preservation at home, and to making textiles for home use and for trade, barter, or sale. That's the definition on Google for homesteading. You don't need to be off-grid to homestead. Now, on their video, they suggested not going off-grid all at once, especially if you have a large family. I absolutely agree. Don't do it all at once. Wendy and I started our journey homesteading years and years ago when we had most of the lifestyle down pat. The food preservation, the way to heat. We got pretty good at gardening and all this other stuff. Then we said, okay, let's produce our own electricity. We chose it. We chose to be off-grid for the simple reason we were trying to be more self-sufficient, because we are seeing more and more the lack of stability in the production and supply chains of the public grids. Power goes out, crops go bad, truckers stop working because they're getting paid more to not work than they are to work. Harbors can't process enough of the stuff. I don't know what happened there in California, where they couldn't handle all the ships coming in with everything all of a sudden, out of nowhere. Why hadn't we heard that before? Anyway, but everything I do needs maintenance, and guess who gets to do the maintenance? It's very hands-on, which is one reason we chose to do this. I am not a self-motivated person, but I'm not going to let my wife or my animals go without. I'm going to make sure they're taken care of. And that forces me to get up. That forces me to move. We chose to try to produce our needs ourselves rather than to rely on someone else to produce it and for us to just consume it. I said before that self-sufficiency is a goal, not a destination. And you try, okay? What we do, and what I suggest for anybody, I don't care if you're in an apartment, a rental, a house, a plantation, or a 60-acre homestead. What I recommend is that you try to set up resources in case one of these grids go down or you lose access to them. We saw toilet paper go off the shelves. We lost access to toilet paper. Thank God it was a short amount of time, several months, but a short amount of time. We had prepared for that. We are now seeing beef and stuff. Food, the costs of food are rising. I can't buy as much. The dollar doesn't go as far. So I need to be prepared for a time when I don't have access to food in the way that I used to. Educate yourself while you still have these assets such as YouTube. YouTube is the second largest search engine on the internet. If there's a subject, someone has probably made a video about it, right, wrong, or indifferent. Knowledge is power. Why do we want our officials to be transparent? Because that knowledge can help us make decisions. Why do they not want to be transparent? Because that knowledge will help us make decisions. I can buy pork cheaper than I can raise it here. But now I know how to raise pigs. Here's a thought. What happens if something happens to the supply chain where I have no access to feed for my pigs? It is relatively easy to go buy pig feed. Totally a whole different thing to set up a system, to have a system in place so that if I don't have access to pig feed, that I can still feed my pigs. Now, that is a resource system, that is a grid that I do not have set up yet, a secondary fallback that I don't have set up yet. I need to be thinking about that. Got to be able to feed the chickens when there's 6 foot of snow on the ground. I have to have a production system. I need to have a grid set up for feeding my chickens in the winter to fall back on. But I'm setting up for when I cannot use these grids, these systems. Becoming less dependent on financial and other supply systems now will help me because I will have the resources already in place or ready to be put into place. That's important. You don't wait for the tornado warning to go off to prepare a place to go in a tornado if you live in that type of area. You don't wait for the first snow to fall to have your heat set up and arranged. Can you homestead off-grid? Yep. Can you homestead on-grid? Yep. Both valid means of life. You need to find out where you fit on that spectrum. Guys, life ain't no ride on no pink duck. Be prepared. Have secondary systems in place. You don't have to move to the middle of nowhere. You don't have to move out of an urban area. Just be prepared for when public services are no longer accessible to you. Whether it's in a storm, weather-related, government-related, whatever happened. If I did get snowed in here, I could live for quite a while. I don't want to test it out. I like being able to go to the grocery store and pick up especially perishables, milk, bread, stuff like that. But I have systems in place where if I can't, that I should be able to get that stuff. So guys, be thinking about this stuff. Is off-grid right for you? I don't know. It is for me. It was a dream that Wendy and I had for years, and I love it. I wouldn't trade it for anything. Homesteading, prepping, whatever you want to call it, where you're at now, getting that education, getting that mindset, beginning that lifestyle. Guys, there's a word for people who pick up dinner on the way home from work every day, 7 days a week, and have nothing more stored up in case they can't get to that store or they lose that job. There's a word for that. It's called victim. Ain't no victims here. Hey guys, if you got any value out of this video, go ahead and, even if it was just a good laugh, click the like button. That helps with the YouTube algorithm. Hit the subscribe button and that little notification bell so that you get notified every time I come out with a new video. Guys, I love everything that's going on with the YouTube channel. We're almost at 300 subscribers. Wow, who would have thunk it? Y'all have a great day. Stay prepared, and God bless.